come closer if you want to. The plant doesn't bite yet. My name is Michel van Dartel, curator at V2, and I would like to briefly go through the program with you so you all know what you can expect from tonight's program. I'm not sure if there's new people at V2 Test Lab tonight. I think I should tell you that we have quite an uncommon format for these evenings. Rather than having the artists present on stage, we're going to visit their work throughout the space. So all these works that you see set up around you, they will be demonstrated to you tonight live. And you as an audience will serve as a critical test panel to these works. And you can do so in various ways. One way is by participating in the brief Q&As that we'll do after these demonstrations. Another one is by, after the demonstration section, get involved in the testing phase of this evening, which means that you engage hands-on with the works demonstrated, and that you can speak one-on-one with the artist, try everything out yourself, have a close look, and, of course, also have a drink. Tonight, we're actually celebrating the beginning of a new Test Lab season. So this is the first edition of a new season, and we're also saying goodbye to our SummerSessions residents, and also celebrating the end of summer. So all of that summed up, it's time for a celebration. So after the demonstrations, we'll be serving some cocktails, and our V2 DJ team will start playing after the demos as well. So we'll have a little party to close this evening with. As most of you that have been here before know, we always arrange these test labs, or program these test labs around a certain theme, and normally we look out into the field of media arts to determine what a good theme is for us to bring in these test lab, and then we organize the programming around that topic. What we're going to do tonight, though, is have a little bit more of an inward look. We're going to look at something that's very close to us, that's happening inside this building, inside the V2 lab, which are the SummerSessions. As most of you will know us through the events that we do, for instance, that some of you might have sat in or enjoyed, exhibitions, debates, conferences, and all of that. You see some examples of what we do here behind me. Others might know us through the publications that we send out into the world. I think, there they are. Some examples. You might have seen these come by in your academic context or doing research. And then others know us through the media arts archive that we run online and use this as a research database, basically. But what is a little bit more difficult to communicate to the outside is what is happening here in the V2 lab, which is on the top floor of this building you're in right now. Now, there's something strange about this image. One thing is there's hardly any people there. The second thing is there are no projects lying around. And there's certainly no deadline stress, although I'm not sure about this one character in the back there. But this is quite an unusual day in the V2 lab, because normally people are running around quite hectically. So this must have been taken on a summer day, I was thinking. But also that can't be true anymore, because a couple of years ago we started doing what we call the Summer-Sessions, which basically means that we use this quiet or slow time of the summer and offer it to artists to make use of our lab for a short time slot. So what usually was a quiet time in the lab became a very hectic period. But we decided to start looking for artists that could really benefit from a few weeks inside this V2 lab and making use of the expertise present there. And we scouted especially for artists that could use this expertise starting up their career. There's also artists that we had a look at that had a project that just needed a small boost to finish, all of that. And we ended up with these 4 names. Joachim Rotteveel, Ivan Henriques, Anouk Wipprecht, and Mark Shepard. All of these participated in our SummerSessions program, and all of these people will also demonstrate to you tonight. What this amounted to, rather than us going on a quiet holiday, was us preparing for these SummerSession artists, and then we immediately got to work, because when you have only like 3, 4, 5 weeks time, you need to start it up quite quickly. So here you see all of these artists working hard. Some previews of the works that you'll see later on as well. A paper version of the app that you'll see later on, some tomato plants getting burned. So all of this was happening over the summer rather than all of these people going on a holiday. I'm skipping. I also wanted to show you this one because we didn't only produce, we also had these weekly meetings where everyone was presenting to each other what they achieved in that week, what problems they ran into. But we also discussed more general things like how to present this work, how to turn it from concept into a model that was actually makeable. So what you see here is actually not set up. People are actually all thinking. Anyway, in the end, this whole process resulted in 4 super beautiful works that we'll all see demonstrated by the artist in tonight's program. Here's 4 previews of the works that you'll see in tonight's program. So we have the artists here to demonstrate the works to you. They will be introduced by the project managers that have been involved in producing these works. So I won't introduce them any further here. They will be introduced later on. And there's one more magic ingredient we decided to add to this evening, and that's Anne Nichte, which is a name that might sound familiar to you, as she used to run the V2 Lab up until a few years ago when she started her initiative called the Patching Zone, where she's working with interdisciplinary teams to create community art projects. So Anne has lots of experience in working towards deadlines with interdisciplinary teams, and that's why we brought her into tonight's program to do some critical reflections. So we'll see Anne in action after each demonstration with some critical reflections on the works, and also I will do a small wrap-up discussion with Anne at the far end of the demonstration section. So lots of things planned for tonight. I think it's time for us to go to the first demonstration, which will happen here. Then we'll move to Mark, Anouk over there, back to Ivan here, so you know what our route is. We'll start here with Joachim Rottewilde. And Joachim Rottewilde will be introduced by Jan Misker, project manager in the V2 Lab, specialized in augmented reality artistic research.
Thank you, Michel. I would like to introduce to you Joachim Rottewilde. He's been we contacted him only very, very shortly before the summer, so we're very happy that he could make it. Joachim is actually from origin or from education a sculptor, then added the ingredient of media studies. So these 2 things combined made it very interesting to work with him, because he has a general interest in looking at what people have at their disposal in terms of technology and media, and not only focusing on all the new and fancy stuff that we all like so much, but also looking back into tradition and more sort of where it all came from, or more traditional, and having a look at these. So say both the traditional and more current day technologies, looking at it both as an artist researcher, but also as an artist making projects, doing works in it themselves. He's trying to really look at what is the material, what is the content of the technology, what can it bring to the form, what can it bring to the interaction, to the experience of the piece. So that's quite general, and I'm very happy that we can show you a very concrete work, and that's where I leave it to Joachim.
Okay. Well, the title of this work is Observer Object. I make this mistake all the time, because it could be object observer also, in a way. The idea is that you look through the eyes of the artist / artwork to yourself. So mainly, it's a feedback loop provided by face tracking. so there's two cameras mounted in the eyes, and there are some buttons behind, like pressure sensors behind here. And in this case, you can just change a few filters on there. And there's some touching sensors here. So I've been looking for a way to, to experiment on that level of touching. So I mainly made a game controller of my own head, which I always liked to do. So before I made this self-portrait, I worked on a project which was called the Automated Visitor, which is a robot which stands inside a museum and looks around himself and looks at with the camera looks at let's say the objects around, and you can see what he is looking at. So this inspired me to think about ways to involve the participator inside the artwork. I just had 2 weeks to make this thing, and this was because I had some difficulties working on the workflow. I first tried to make a perfect workflow, and all in the context of 3D imaging. And this is the result of a 3D process, which involves like 3D laser scanning and then retopologizing it with a 3D modeling environment. But what I noticed is that this technique is not really suited for the human body, I think. So what I did was make a mold of my head and do it really on the traditional way. And I do really like that because, well, that's my interest, trying to combine those two, trying to combine the traditional with new media. So, what to tell more?
Yeah, what I like about the work is that it's very, how do you say? Oh, sorry. It's a very basic interaction in a way, but also because it just works as advertised, you get into the interaction really easy. And then on top of that, but then I really have to give it back to you again, is the this feedback loop, and you have a self-portrait that's looking at you, then you have yourself looking at the self-portrait of you that's being seen through the eyes of the work. So this whole loop creates really interesting constellations, I think.
Then I could, we are really, mainly, we are not really aware about the fact that we make self-portraits all the time, and it's like a part of our daily life. We make, with a digital camera, we make pictures of ourselves and use them for our avatar on Facebook or whatever. And this is like, something that we are most of the time not aware about. And so I do like the whole intimate thing of cameras. And so that's it.
Okay. Thank you for explaining, Joachim Jan. Maybe a little bit of an applause. Thank you. Are there any questions from the audience about Joachim's project? Over there? Do we have a microphone over there?
So, hello. Can you tell something about why your cheeks are glowing, or why your replica's cheeks are glowing?
Yeah. Well, what I want to work at, what I'm working at, is making like a mapping of this face with let's say the face of the looker. So that's more or less a way to show. It's a way to show that you can press on that point, and but I want to work. I'm still working on that. In this case, I didn't use an inner mold because of the time pressure, but yeah. So you can imagine that you can make all kind of buttons, which well explain better than a light what it can do.
Well, what I was also wondering is, why is it a portrait of yourself? I think you, I mean, it's a self-portrait, but you could also mold it with other people's heads, right? And it would still have this strangeness of touching someone's head.
Yeah. So in a bigger, in a wider sense, I really like. Well, I'm researching on this level of the self-image and the way we look at ourselves and on others, and this is a first experiment on that level. And I'm also planning for next year to portrait other people. And for example, one idea is to portrait people. Well, the last the last person of its kind, or races that are how do you say that will disappear, like. It would be interesting to portrait someone and to keep him alive. Yeah.
As a sort of archive.
Yeah, it's a way of archiving, but then a modern way.
Okay. Yeah. Anna, you have a question?
Yeah, I think I have a question. Maybe a remark first, but it's definitely a question for Joachim. I'm actually kind of wondering how your interface form-wise works. If I look at the hats, knowing that you are a sculpturist, I think, okay, we're going back to real figurative art.
Yes.
But then there is this very strange adjustment with the lights in the cheeks and the strange lights in the eyes. Though I understand this will change, but it still will be a strange alteration.
Yes.
And then this classical hat, you're gonna move or touch. That is quite unlike museum settings.
Yes.
And then something very strange in the imagery starts. Can you reveal a little bit of that strange contradiction in your piece?
Yeah,
Why is this like this and that like that?
You're right. I do. I'm interested in the way this reflects also on the history of the self-portrait or the portrait, and I'm still figuring out how to make it work. So in this case, I used a very more mechanic or electronic approach, but I also will try to use like prosthesis for the eyes and like try to make it as realistic as possible. But first of all, in this residency, I've been trying to merge those machines inside the head, and so that's mainly why it looks like this.
No, okay, but then the next question is, how will the future head look like? Form-wise, style-wise, can you just tell us a little secret of your future plans? Because we understand this is a prototype.
Yes. Well, there's several researches I'm doing. One is more on the internal body, so working with MRI scans and augmented reality. So this is for example like using 3D projection on the head and trying to make the inside visible. This is one thing. The other is maybe making the dead alive. For example, Lenin's body, trying to get the CT scans, and then reconstruct him and make a robot out of him. So that's a way.
This is very interesting because I understand that you really use this figurative aspect in a very functional way.
Yeah. Also, so that's
another
more,
dimension.
Yeah, it's more like a media technological approach. Yeah. So how like more techno-scientific. So how could I make those kind of reconstructions? Make it look realistic. So.
And then turn it around.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Are there any other questions? Otherwise, I would like to thank Joachim again for answering the questions.
I would like to thank everybody of the team of V2 and especially Jan.
So, anyone who wants to play with Joachim's head is welcome later on. We're now moving in that direction for Mark Shepard's work. And Mark Shepard will be introduced by Rui Guerra, who is a software developer in the V2 lab, but in this project also involved as the project manager.
Okay, thank you, Michel. So I will introduce Mark Shepard. He's an artist, a researcher, and an architect, and also a teacher, if I'm not wrong, right? His research is mainly focused on mobile technologies and ubiquitous computing. And he studies the implication that these technologies have on urban space and on architecture in general. You might know Mark from works like Tactical Sound Garden, and he also has curated an exhibition called Toward the Sentient City, which is exactly about this subject I just mentioned. And Mark is actually a very special artist in residence because he's the first collaborative artist in residence that we are having together with IBM at New York. So we are doing this series of collaborative artists in residence together with his institute, and he's the first one. During his residency, he developed one item from a group of items that belong to a project that he calls Sentient City, the survival kit. And so this kit has several artifacts towards the direction on how to survive in a near future sentient city. For non-English speakers, sentient stands for being able to perceive or feel things. And this, I think, will get much clearer when Mark will talk about the serendipiter, which was the artifact that we developed this summer here at the lab. I will just talk a little bit about the whole process of having Mark here and developing this project. So actually we had a very scary deadline for him. We told him we have to do this in 10 days. So he was in New York at IBM, and we had exactly 10 working days to start and finish the entire project, which was an iPhone application. So he was very concerned. So we have several Skype meetings before we started, where we discussed concept, and he was always asking me, don't you think it's a good idea maybe to start developing this a little bit earlier? And well, we try to introduce this methodology of fast developing projects that even has a name. You can Google if you never heard about it. It's called agile development. And basically the idea is that you have to start prototyping in the very first day. So you have to come up with a project in the first day. In order to do that, you kind of have to start from the end. So you assume that everything is ready, and you just try immediately to try it out with a prototype. So actually, you saw some pictures during Michel's presentation. So we made a whole application in paper, and we let some users to test it. And this is fundamental while developing software. It is to have several cycles. That you try out the first test, you get some feedback from some users, and then you rethink the whole project, try it out again. And this can be really long if you're developing software. So we use mainly paper. So during those 10 days, the first 2 days, we were working mainly on paper. So when we had a quite concise idea of what we wanted, we end up developing it on time, and I hope as good as you expected. But maybe Mark will let you know about it. Mark.
Well, thanks, Rui. And thanks, everyone, for coming. So the project is titled the Sentient City Survival Kit, as Rui mentioned, and it's a project which is about creating artifacts for survival in this near future sentient city. Sentient city, as you mentioned, is a city which can perceive you, specifically feel you or hear you, but it doesn't necessarily know anything about you, right? So in a way, it's not quite that smart city that the computer scientists and engineers have been promising us for 30, 40, 50 years. But it's not exactly dumb either. And by talking about this in the context of the near future, what I'm really trying to do is reference something that's anywhere from happening tomorrow to 5 years out. Okay? In Rotterdam, recently you had introduced the chip card on your transportation systems. And this is one of a number of types of technologies which are becoming increasingly pervasive in our everyday lives. How we interact with and through these technologies in modern cities is really becoming something which is evolving much more rapidly than our public understanding about it. So the project really is about a kind of archaeology of sorts of this near future city, producing a series of concrete artifacts in the present around which we can organize a discussion about just what kind of future we might want. So, like any good survival kit, I suppose, I created a user's guide, and I think if we can get the sound up, Richard, I'll start by playing this short video of the user's guide. Let me just rewind it for a second. Okay.
Quick. Start. Guide. Start quick. In the near future, finding your way from point A to point B will not be the problem. Maintaining consciousness of what happens along the way might be more difficult. This alternative navigation app for mobile phones is designed to help you find something by looking for something else. Simply head out into the city and start the app. Enter a destination or let the app select one for you. You can increase or decrease the complexity of the route the app generates for you. Once you are happy with the route, tap Start and you are on your way. Turn-by-turn directions from a web-based routing service are combined with instructions for movements and actions to take at each step of the way. Follow the instructions diligently and you are sure to find small slippages and minor displacements within an otherwise optimized and efficient route. In the near future sentient shopping center, item-level tagging and discrete data sniffing will become both pervasive corporate culture and a common criminal pastime. This popular product line consists of his and hers underwear designed to sense hidden radio frequency identification tag readers and alert the wearer to their presence. Small vibrating motors sewn into strategic locations on the garments are activated when the RFID antenna detects the presence of a reader nearby. Wear these garments while you are out and about to ensure that shopping remains a stimulating, if no longer secure, experience. In a near-future world where all network traffic is monitored via smart filters, where access privileges are dynamically granted and denied on the fly based on your credit card transaction history, and where bandwidth is a function of your market capitalization. Standard commuter gear includes this travel mug designed for creating ad hoc dark networks for communication along a morning commute. The mug incorporates a mobile phone screen embedded in the lid of the mug, together with a small wireless mesh networking radio and microcontroller. Caffeine-fueled commuters share short messages between them throughout the ride. Create your message by tapping the metal dot on the side of the mug, and then make a drinking gesture to broadcast it to other mugs on the network. Others receive your message instantly, and can respond in turn. The more mugs the merrier, as each extends the network. Half a dozen mugs is enough to create a network along an entire train under normal conditions. When human vision is no longer the only game in town, don't leave home without this unique umbrella studded with infrared LEDs, designed to flirt with computer vision algorithms of advanced surveillance systems. The umbrella consists of 256 infrared LEDs inserted into its canopy, powered by 8 lithium polymer batteries concealed in its stalk. These LEDs are visible only to CCD surveillance systems set to night vision mode. These systems commonly track figures using a sophisticated algorithm to distinguish moving objects in the foreground of an image from a static background. By turning the umbrella on and off, you can alter the registration of foreground and background pixels stored in system memory, thereby frustrating attempts by the algorithm to track moving objects in the image.
Okay, so while I was here, in addition to producing this short video with the incredible assistance and support of Ivana. Where's Ivana? Is Ivana here? Raise her hand. There she is, back there. We were primarily focused as well in the first part, as Rui was mentioning, with the development of a mobile phone application. So the Serendipidor is an iPhone application which is available. How many people in the room have an iPhone? Let me just raise your. Don't be afraid. That's all right. All right. Okay. Well, this app is for you. Okay. In the near future, finding our way from point A to point B is not going to be a problem. We're able to simply type it into our mobile phones, and we'll be able to reach our destination most likely. But somehow maintaining a consciousness of what happens along the way between these points might become more difficult. So the Serendipidor is an application to help you find something by looking for something else. So I'm going to here just start off the origin. We're going to take our current location here at V2, and I'm going to ask it for a random location at this point and see where it takes us. Okay, so we've got a little short, a little dog-legged route, but somehow I've got a little more time than 16 minutes on my hands, so I'm going to actually ask the application to try to find me a little bit more complex route. And so what it does is it starts calculating ways between these points which become increasingly complex. Once I've found a route which I seem to want to take, I hit start. And very much like the TomTom or these turn-by-turn navigation systems, it gives you directions, so such as head southeast on Endraksveg, sorry for my pronunciation, toward Museum Park, that's easier, and then walk on the sunny side of the street. If there's no sun, imagine some. And so each of these steps, effectively what we're doing is we're taking the instructions delivered by Google's routing service, Google Maps, and then we're appending them to them instructions for movement or action, which somehow introduce small slippages, minor interruptions, gaps into this otherwise highly optimized and efficient route between these 2 points. These movements, actions, very much inspired by people like Fluxus, Vito Acconci, Yoko Ono, and others who were looking 30, 40 years ago into just the different ways that through small ways of moving and acting in the city can radically transform our experience of the city, right? So as I'm cycling through here, I don't know if anyone you can see the screen, but there's a whole series of these types of conjunctions between the kind of machine-generated instructions and then those instructions for movement and actions, which really look for ways to kind of interrupt that route. Upon reaching the destination, you can generate an email which will list all of the steps you've taken, the instructions, provide a link to Google Maps, which will then map this route for you. We've just launched the application a week ago. When we reach a critical mass of people sharing with us the routes they've taken, we will be posting them to a blog for the website so that there's an ability to begin to share these routes that you found and discovered along the way. So that's the Serendipiter. Again, it's available for the iPhone people in the room, or friends of iPhone people even. It's available for download for free from the App Store. I guess I should close by saying that very much this project is not, well, this project is definitely not about predicting future trends. I'm not in the business of forecasting technology. I don't write white papers on what's coming, but very much about having a discussion in the present about just what kind of future we might want. And in this way, hoping to be able to influence the shape of the future technologies that mediate our experience of the city and the choices we make there. Finally, I guess I should really thank the people here at V2. It's been an incredible 6 weeks here. Extremely talented, skilled people who spend every day working very hard to make extraordinary things possible. So, thank you.
Thank you.
My microphone's off, is it? No, it's on. Well, thanks for the flattery, in the name of the V2 people. But I was wondering, because you were saying in your presentation that the serendipiter is making you find things by looking for something else, right?
That's right.
Am I saying that correct?
Mm-hmm.
So what kind of things that you find by looking for something else using the serendipiter?
Well, it's interesting. We did a paper study, as Rui was mentioning, in the development process. And so some of the things that we were hearing, responses that people had, overridingly the instructions which somehow asked you to interact with somebody else on the street. Pick a person and follow them. Ask somebody for the directions to the closest park. See if they'll join you. Take a photograph of them. Overwhelmingly, those were the most popular, right? So somehow finding a kind of chance encounter with someone in the public space of the city was very strong. You also found people who were really interested. One of the instructions is, turn left, turn right, then follow a cloud. If there are no clouds, make some. And the one response of one of the residents here, who will be nameless for the moment, was just remarking how hard it is to follow a cloud. So, in a way, it's less about specific things that are discovered, but reviewing or looking at the city in new ways, right? Which again has a long history in terms of art practices, looking toward ways to reorient you toward everyday life, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Louis?
Yes, maybe. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, maybe I also can add a little bit to that question. So during this paper test we made, one of the first reactions was, I think people were walking through streets that they walk every day, but somehow they've been finding different things, probably very personal, probably little nothings, not worth mentioning. But one of the things we were asked was, or one of the things we noticed while doing the test was that people were naturally taking pictures of streets that they walked every day. So we add that feature to the application. So we had a little button that while you are walking around with a normal GPS kind of application, you also have a little button in case you feel the urge to document your process.
And you mean that the fact that people felt the urge to document it also meant that they saw like new special things to them? Is that more or less what you're arguing?
Yeah, you could say that.
Sounds plausible. Are there any questions from the audience? Over there?
You say that you're not like in predicting the future or saying of writing white papers, but I find it, I presume you're actually making a statement about the future, especially in your video. It's some kind of maybe a concept of the Internet of Things or some kind of fear for being watched and those filters, etc. So you're making a statement about how to design your own future, your own city. How do you see that?
Well, how do I see that? Maybe I should talk a little bit about the process. So the process of designing these artifacts, what artifact first, and secondly, what approach to take to it, comes from doing a lot of research in terms of reading other people's white papers, going to conferences in computer science, engineering, ubiquitous computing, and so forth, and identifying the kind of latent assumptions, certain kind of hidden biases or agendas that play in the research, and trying to tease those out, right, and to in a way kind of even extend it to the point of absurdity. So, for example, the underwear, right, is very much about this condition where you have this remote data skimming, where somebody's able to pull data from you in some way remotely without you necessarily being aware of it. And while this is not necessarily predicting something in the kind of far future, I mean, this in fact is happening now, the position there, the statement there is less to say, okay, this is necessarily going to prevent this from happening. So in other words, it's not an ideology of resistance, but it's to say if these kind of electromagnetic fields are becoming something which are pervasive and they're becoming a communications platform, then in what ways can we interact with them which don't get caught up in this kind of dialogue of any technology is bad, but can sort of look for more subtle and nuanced interactions we can have within this condition, which is in fact I'm not predicting it, I'm just identifying certain things that are happening just upstream in the technology development pipeline.
Okay. So a very positive and open mind towards
well, I'm hoping that there's a kind of ambivalence in this, right? So in other words, even with the iPhone application, I mean, what does it mean when we need to download an application for serendipity from the App Store, right? I mean, what kind of society is this? Is this a society that we want to become part of? Do we want to live in it? If not, then what other ways can we imagine? Most of the technology development is being done by investment banking coupled with the major technology players. That's clear. What other types of voices need to be introduced into this conversation? And so the intention here is to begin to provide certain types of very concrete artifacts around which we can begin to have these kinds of discussions.
Are there any more questions? Anna?
I have two questions for you, Mark. The first one, when I look at the series, this particular serendipity item looks all of a sudden extremely practical compared to the others. How does that come? Why did you decide to make a very practical, downloadable application or did you also plan to have these umbrellas online for sale?
Oh, well, the umbrellas, sure. All of these are prototypes. I mean, one imagines that I'm presenting the Serendipiter here tonight because this is really the focus of the work we were doing at V2 this summer. But at the same time, I would say, to respond to the question of the practicality of it. I mean, like any collection, one has an opportunity to design for kind of a range of conditions, right? So you have, the umbrella, which is something which is, yes, okay, practical, but not at all as, a rain shelter, shield. But the application for the phone needed to have a level of practicality in it, because if you, in wanting to work with the kind of over-determination, right, and the kind of optimization, the efficiency, the move toward these, that these types of applications have, you need to, and to be able to intercut that with suggestions like, really, pick a person and follow them for 2 minutes. Take the next cab, ask the cab driver to take you wherever you want, where to his favorite place, right? So it needs that level of it. So it's practical on one level, but I would hope that at least on another level it becomes clear that this is in fact not very practical at all if you're looking to go to make a meeting or an appointment, right?
Yeah. If you're in a hurry.
If you're in a hurry,
yeah. So you're playing a joke with people.
Oh, well, absolutely. I mean,
then I can have a next question for
sure.
you, because I think that what I like about it, about playing the joke, is that it is so hysterical to try to get lost with the application, because you don't experience the city at all when you are looking at your phone, and that I think is the nicest part of the project. And I think that is something that also deserves some attention of everyone walking around, including me. When you are looking for your way, you forget to look at street names, you just look at your phone, and you don't have any clue what was where you were passing by 10 meters ago. Right. So I think that is actually a very nice feature you're promoting, and I'm going to download it. That's for sure. And actually, we play this getting lost game in the city when people in the patching zone are arriving newly in the city in every project. And we do it with a little paper navigation device. And that works actually also really nice.
The paper version, yeah.
So.
Okay. Well, thank you, Mark.
Okay, thanks. Yeah.
And I have two practical announcements before we move on to the next demonstration, which is one, here it says where you can download the app. And secondly, Jan, I think you have a missed call. Okay, up to
There's a blocked
the
caller.
demo corner over here,
Where's Jan?
where we will see a demonstration by Anouk Wipprecht. It will be introduced by Pim Weert, who is a project manager in the V2 lab specialized in wearable technology.
Thank you, Michel. Yeah, indeed, wearable technology. Let me first introduce you a bit into the subject before I introduce Anouk to you. Wearable technology is a very broad field, but it's basically consisting always of a combination of textiles and electronics in a wide variety of forms. You will find it. And wearable technology has been a topic of research within the lab for many years now. And the very first things we did was basically very bulky electronics strapped on the body, so you could actually call it wearable, but it's very far from fashion, so to speak. And over the years it evolved into more and more soft objects that you could hold in your hand, let it be more portable than wearable. But the technology also evolved a lot, so we see now conductive threads, for example, that you can use in a sewing machine. There are conductive textiles that you can really nice and flexible garments with. So we are more and more ready to really integrate the two, whereas textiles and electronics are not logically to combine, since the one is very soft and flexible and smooth, and the others are still hard plastic components. But there are ways to merge the two, and ideally they combine into true fashion items. So that's why we decided within the lab to invite a true fashion designer, which is Anouk Wipprecht. And she is not only a fashion designer, but also very much fascinated by technology. And that makes it a perfect combination to have as a resident in our lab and work together with us. So over the last few weeks, actually, she developed the project Pseudomorphs, which you will see here. And it will also be presented on the Vienna Fashion Week only by the end of this month, if I'm right. Yeah. But I think you can now display it and explain best yourself. Thanks.
Okay, well, my name is Anouk Ruprecht, like Pim said. First of all, I am designing towards things that have their own behavior, and I just saw that this one over here really has its own behavior, so that's a little bit a mistake, but also a thing that I should like, because I already said that I want to create things that have an own behavior. So, second of all, I just wetted my cards. So actually, I'm not a terrible good speaker, but I'm just going to do it blanco. And the thing that I designed was I wanted to design a neck piece, or actually a design of its own that is reproducing, sort of my designs to make it also having a sort of uncontrolled thing, because I've worked with things like LEDs and displays and also fabrics itself, and I think though it is digital, it feels very analog to me, and that's why I wanted to work with these fluid things. That's what I had in mind. And so I decided to build the chess piece that you see right here. It works on pneumatic control valves and on a 9-volt battery, so it's pretty wearable. And through that, it's getting the ink to the chess piece, which are coloring the dresses. And the dresses you can see, some of them you can see over here. I'm making more of them. And this is actually what we did in the afternoon. We made a movie of it, and that turned out pretty well. And what I already said. Fashion for me should be more than just fabrics. When I'm going to a fabric store or whatever, I don't get inspired by the fabrics that I have there. And first, I started to make my own fabrics, and that's still, it wasn't enough for me, sort of. And now I really like to explore these things, to be sort of fluidly and natural. And that's what I did. So, and I actually like it because it's the neck piece, it's making the dress, and I think the dress is also making art itself.
Anouk, maybe you can explain a little bit more about what's happening on the back of the dress, because people in the front can't really see what's going on there.
Yeah, I can explain, or maybe I can ask Lara to turn around. The thing it is here, there's the 9-volt battery in the back. There are pumps up here. They are pumping the ink. Like you see, there's not much ink inside anymore. And actually, normally I would go with a total of ink, but for this time I used water. So I put water instead in it. So the ink that was still left in it was from the dress that we shot in the afternoon. Because now you can see the sudden flow. Normally it would be from light until darker, and now it's this pretty cool purple that is left. And these are the valves. If you come closer, you can see it afterwards. You can hear them click. They're controlled. And the little circuit board is underneath with all the stuff on it that it needs. You can turn around. Oh.
Okay, thank you, Anouk, for your demo.
Yeah.
A round of applause, please. So, one thing that I would like to ask you straight away before we break it open to the audience is, presenting wearables is a big discussion also inside the V2 Lab, because this almost looks performance-like, because it happens there at the moment. It's how do you say that? You're not sure what comes out of it, so it's it gives you this performance-like feeling, but then again, you don't really want to show it as a performance because it's about the garment. So what is your take on this? Should this evolve into a performance-like, or should this presentation, or should it evolve into a garment?
I think I was just telling Lara in the back, like, it would have been so much easier to have a doll or an installation or something like that, but having it on a model, first of all, it's more, flowing for me in a way. And for this performance, I think a performance would be something. Actually, I think it is a performance, but for this, I chose to have it like the ink. I chose to let it all flow in like a snap of a time, like pretty, how do you say? Pretty quickly, sort of. And I could also decide to, like, for an other kind of thing, I could decide to let the ink like drop very slowly, so you don't need all the drama or art that is surrounded. So I think that's can be a choice.
So it can still go both ways, basically.
Okay. Actually, my first idea with it was to have the dresses and to take the dresses sort of while during the performance, that she could take the dress off and get it on a string. And but for me that was too much of a hassle. And I also like this Lara to stand there, this aesthetic view sort of. And especially like having the girl stand there and let the dress do the work.
Okay.
I think that's
interesting. Are there any questions in the audience? None?
Well, come on.
Alan?
I'm really curious. I like the way you present it, because prior to your model coming in, sorry, I forgot your name, so I don't want to be
Lara.
Lara. You showed us 4 kind of wasted dresses, and I'm just totally curious what your idea is about the dresses. So not about a garment, because they are part of the garment, I understand. But now they're hanging there and kind of sad because they're done. How do you look upon it? Is this going to be recycled or reused, or are you planning to sell them, or what's the idea?
Yeah, during the process, I was thinking of the chess piece as being this sort of, how do you say? We say fabriek.
Factory?
Sorry, it's, like this kind of factory. And that is like the dresses are coming in and they're going out and they're differently, sort of. So that's why I decided to have it like here and then go there and to have them stand there in a way. But the funny thing with the ink is you can wash them and then it's gone. And you can also, I can put water in this and then it's cleaning itself. The only problem right now is that the ink will be there. And but it would be cool to have this cycle going on, like the ink going on again and then going in. But actually the dresses, they can be when they're cleaned or when I put water through this. I think you can all, it's cleaning itself again. So
your question of potentially selling it actually made me think of that. I don't know if any one of you were here during the test lab where we had Cute Circuit present the Hug shirt, and we were discussing like economic models for wearables. And in the newsletter, I saw that 2 weeks ago they opened their first online shop selling their wearables. So it seems to be possible. Would there be a way that you would like to go with your projects in general, but also with this project to actually sell the works?
That was actually what I really would like to do, because I think some of the patterns are really cool, especially I think this one. I like this. So, but also I'm going to show this piece on the Vienna Fashion Week. So then the piece will be shown, and then the dresses will come afterwards. Also as this, also as a way of saying like making a series or something. But I think I need to develop it more. Also the fabric to have that really going on.
So then there in that presentation, actually what you made here during your residency becomes a production tool for the collection you will show there, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
The second half of the show will be by pieces that are made through the chess piece.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So then you're going to have an exclusive version and a poor people version. No, I'm just kidding.
It depends. If you see it as a factory, then it's not, I think.
Yeah.
Okay.
The haute couture.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Are there any no more questions? Oh, there's a question over there.
Not a question, but it's a great way to involve the people wearing the garment into the process of making the garment themselves. They're making it right there and then, and they take more home with them than just a piece of clothing. It's something they made themselves, and that's, well, you can't put that down in money in rich and poor. I think it's the experience. So, yeah, I like that.
But as the factory, maybe also. Thanks.
Okay, if there's no more questions, last chance? No? Then thank you very much, Anouk.
Yeah, what I also wanted to say is, thank you, V2 and the people of the lab for the really awesome time. And I'm really gonna miss you guys, and you are like family. And thanks to Lara standing here for half an hour, maybe longer.
Okay, well, I think we should move to the middle here, where you've probably all seen this strange type of plant standing. And this is where Ivan Henriques will do his demonstration, and I will be the one introducing him, if I can find my notes, because I was involved as a project manager in this project. Ivan Henriques is a Brazilian artist working on multimedia and site-specific installations, and he's also co-founder of the Experimental Multidisciplinary Autonomous Group, which is an artist-led group that focuses on the exploration of the city of Rio de Janeiro and its environment. Currently, Ivan is based in the Netherlands. He's taking a Master Art Science in The Hague. Which also brought out the opportunity for us to work with him here. And as part of his master, he started up a collaboration with Bert van Duin of Leiden University, who is also present here, I think, who introduced him to the world of plant communication, and more specifically to the action potential that plants have. And we'll hear more about that from Ivan. In his Summer Sessions project called Action Plant, he brings together the science of plant communication with his deep concerns regarding the deforestation of Amazonia. Ivan?
Hello, good evening. First of all, I'd like to thank some people here. First, V2, and then Hortus Botanicus from Leiden, and also Professor Bert van Duin, somewhere here, and Joachim, who also helped me to develop this machine. So the first, the two arms of the idea of this project is to empower the plants and also to interface it with, use the machine as an interface for the plant, right? So, well, all this idea came, as Michel said, about Amazonia, but it's mainly about the tropical forest, about deforestation of tropical forests, and how we could give power to the plants to get away from their aggressor or even fight against them. So one of the research that I've been doing is like we have like several international companies or biopolitical powers in tropical forests, and how so instead of criticizing these companies, I decided to create a solution. So the solution would give movement to the plants, right? And then also another part of the research that I've been doing with Professor Bert is the action potential, which is the technique that we are using. Well, we start to make a research also here in V2 to get the signal, because the action potential is actually like the signal that travels inside of the plant. So if the plant is hurt or something else happened with the plant, we can measure it, and then from this would be the startup for this machine, right? But for this project, as we've been developing this research, and then we found out that the action potential itself, it takes much longer time as it is an interactive piece. it takes much more time for the reaction. And then we decided to use another technique, which is an antenna, but it also works. It's connected with the machine. And yeah, I think that's it.
Can we see it at work?
Yeah, let's try. I hope it works. Maybe this one. Come on, move.
You were saying before that it was asleep, right?
Yeah. The plant, like now you can see all the leaves are closed. Yeah. And then we try to... it's not working. It was working. Well, we can try another technique. No. Maybe someone else would like to try. Yeah, we can restart maybe.
I think you do a good job at the tension build-up.
Yes. Well, it's completely unstable, right? It's a plant, and it's also a machine.
Okay, but while Stan is restarting it, can you also tell us a little bit more about your choice of plant?
Yeah, this plant, for example, it's Mimosa pudica. And also, like I was trying to make a relation with the movement. So when you touch the plant moves, and then it was making a reaction as a movement, like to make one movement to become another one. And yeah, well, I think it's shy because in the other presentation it worked, but yeah.
I've seen it work all afternoon. Is that a question?
Yeah, it's also another idea. Try Marcus. Yeah, it's not working.
Turn off the lights and let it sleep? Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's a bit surprised because like it was working until yesterday. Then today we decided to let the plant rest because. Well,
okay, but we can ask Stan to maybe have a look under the hood after we close up, and
sure.
When people want to try, they can see it work later on.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, and then we go into the questions for now, if there are any. Can we have a microphone here, sir? It's for the people watching the stream.
I was even talking with you a bit earlier. I was thinking to make more machines and make more biotics connects. To make this kind of connection with the nature and the machines, which I think is that the future of the nature is engineering, right? So if we could, I don't know, I was reading a book, and then this book was about environment and self-sustainability. And if we could make all our environment with the natural resources for our own living. So we have water, we have wind. Why not plants?
I remember when we started the project, the one of the first things we started discussing was that it's actually unfair that the plants were not able to use the same technology as we humans do, right?
Exactly.
Okay. Are there any more questions from the audience? There's two. Melissa first, and you.
Hi. Do you see plants collaborating with each other in the future?
Yes. I was reading a newspaper, and then it was telling about like when an insect is eating a plant, it leaves some smell in the air, and this smell attracts another insects. That this first insect eats the other one. So then it's like a cycle. But the plants themselves, I think they if they have a memory, and if I don't know, it's this research about the action potential is exactly like the nervous system that is inside of the plant. So nervous system, you can transfer it into like memory, and if the plants have a memory, what would be I don't know what would be their relation with each other.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Another question over here, but maybe we can pass the microphone first, so that the online viewers can also hear us.
Yeah, thanks. So while the plant is asleep currently, maybe you can explain what it does while it's awake. So
well, this plant, I don't know if you know, is called Mimosa pudica, right? And the plant, when you touch the leaves close. So it's like a water system inside of the plants that makes this movement of the plant, and it's also a protection for it. So it glows. Yeah.
I think the question also refers to what this plant does when it's awake.
When it's awake, it's a plant. But what happens with this work when the plant is awake? Okay. Well, when it's awake, you touch the plant, you touch the leaves, and then the movement of the leaves trigger the movement of the machine. So it's like an hybrid.
So it moves around the whole object?
No. Like the leaves they close by themselves, right? And then it triggers the movement of the machine, and the machine would walk.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry?
It would be nice if it. Yeah, it runs away or go towards you or whatever. It's like we did a random programming, like a blind programming for this.
It really doesn't want to do it, right?
It's a pity that it's not working. Yes, Michel. Yeah.
You have to know how to touch a plant, right?
Exactly. I've been so much.
Okay, are there any more questions for Ivan? No? Then thank you, Ivan, for showing this work to us. Then I would like to end this with a brief closing discussion, and I'll go to Anne for that, because I wanted to ask Anne to compare the way we worked with these SummerSessions projects with the way you work within the patching zone. I know that the setup is different, but maybe you can point out some differences that we might also learn from in this residency context.
Yeah, it's interesting. What I really like about the projects I saw and tested this evening is that they're working. Sleeping plants, but and I think that is a way of working that is immensely important also in our works, in our projects. Usually we have longer term projects, like 9 months, a year, with a group of people who do not know each other, and who have very different backgrounds. But every now and then we also start to do these very short cycles of pressure cooking project prototypes. And what I noticed here is quite similar to what I often see happen in the patching zone, but also elsewhere. You have a beautiful prototype. Hey, it's working. You know it's not a final version. However, you have to present it. And that is a real difficult thing, because you're presenting something to get feedback from people, and you want people to test it. But if it doesn't look good, if it's not fully functional, they will complain and only focus on that. And in many respects, we try to not make full working prototypes, but sometimes really you see our people running around with carton boxes and do things in a very analog way instead, because otherwise you spend a lot of time on the prototype knowing that this is only version 0. And this is a dilemma we also run in quite often, but I noticed, like, okay, this is now version 1. It's beautiful, but it's not there yet. So you want to move to version 2. That will take a long, long time. And you're kind of stuck with this prototype because it looks so beautiful. So it's also a risk, I think, to make beautiful prototypes. On one hand, it's very nice because you really can see what people are doing. On the other hand, it is a bit of a risk because you're stuck with a prototype.
Well, as you know, we like prototypes here at TestLab.
Now, that's true. If it's your intention to end up with a prototype, then it's totally fine. And I think also very important to make statements in the coloring and in the functionality to start to think about a future version. That's absolutely correct. Another difference I see with the work produced in the summer sessions and the way we are working is that we seem, but maybe I'm not correct, we seem to include the real world a lot more. And I've seen some people running in the Witte de Witstraat with the app, and I know the people from the Botanic Gardens have been involved. But I think involving the real world is something what is of immense importance for prototyping. The end user, but also the surprises you cannot program, you won't expect in your initial design. I think that is a major difference. If you have a bit more time, you also have time to include real-world people. Sometimes it's not nice to do that, so you should skip that. And then further, I think the pressure cooking concept for the summer sessions at V2 always give very inspiring results. And not because it's an easy thing, but because you have a deadline and you have to present it and people are going on holidays. So the enthusiasm, and I was also really surprised whole summer. Every time when I kind of drop by at V2, it's always people working, no holidays. So yeah, so I think it is also a way to really engage with people. It's also overviewable, and the way we work, it's a bit more complicated because there is a longer term commitment. But it's also nice because you can build up a lot of trust and get to know each other. After a period of pressure cooking work, you usually get to know your colleagues and your team members very well, and then it's actually too bad to leave them. I saw some tears in people's eyes this evening. It's like, oh shit, when was getting there? It's so nice.
Well, that's also why we planned a little celebration at the end of this evening to say proper goodbye to the summer session artists.
Yeah, that will make up for it probably.
So maybe then we should move ahead and go into this party mode. Okay, thanks a lot, Anne, for your closing reflections. I would like to thank very much all the artists that we've worked with over the past few weeks. Mark, Anouk, Ivan, and Joachim. It was great to have you in the V2 lab, and I think the end result is really astonishing. Our respondent extraordinaire, Anne Nichte, thank you very much for your work tonight. Also, all our developers and project managers in the lab, Rui, Boris, Jan, Pim, Simon, David, Stan, all worked very hard on these projects, and I think we're all very grateful for your input. I would like to thank I-Beam for our collaboration in Mark's residency. Also, the people behind the scenes setting up for these events. I would like to thank everyone involved on the production side for making this happen tonight again. Also, the people on the documentation and streaming. Thank you all very much. Thank you all for coming. Stay around to test the works. And in the meantime, we'll be serving some summer cocktails to say goodbye to summer. And we'll have some DJs from the V2 to close this evening with some music. Thank you very much.